preparing English learners for success. So in this project, the first thing we're going to identify is kind of what we're looking at. So ideally, this project is going to cover how to prepare English learners for life after graduation, how to prepare them to be the best version of themselves so they can have a successful career and life outside of school. So the first part of my live binder was my diversity video. In this video, I kind of just lay out the project overall, talking about the topic, that public school system does not prepare English language learners, and how to implement new programs to support speaking and reading skills while supporting the diverse cultural background of the students. This video was actually backed up by my research. So my first source was Planning for College and Careers, How Families and Schools Shape the Alignment of Post-Secondary Expectations. And this goes into how we as schools kind of push kids, especially English learners, away from the idea of college. We usually tell them that they're not going to do well in college, or we inadvertently make them feel as if they're not going to be successful, and in turn take away that as an option for them after graduation. The second source was Supporting Knowledge and Language Acquisition of Secondary Emergent Bilinguals Through Social Studies Instructions, and this one talked about how we can work on the tactics we use as teachers, especially social studies teachers as myself, to help students engage with the material and learn more. So one of the biggest things this one talks about is kind of how to build a classroom environment that supports these students, makes them feel as if they are welcome and supported in every aspect. So they are not feeling left behind or less than another student, so they are feeling the exact same as their classmates. The third source we have is the Forest the Trees, Investigating Groups and Individuals in Longitudinal Second Language English Speaking Development. In this study, we talk about how English learners learn English in a variety of different ways. If we take these different strategies and implement them into the classroom throughout different activities, goal setting, and things like that, then students are going to be more successful because they'll see what they are capable of. If they are setting goals for themselves, they are more likely to achieve above and beyond what they expect of themselves because they know they are capable of it. The fourth source is the Negative Teacher Feedback Towards Students, Decreasing the Probability of Empathetic Classmates Making a Sociometric Choice. So in this study, it found out that when teachers are negative towards students, they are actually pushed to the side or forgotten or even, not allowed to be part of the classroom environment because their classmates are taking out their frustrations and their other emotions on them. So if a teacher is providing negative feedback to students who do not speak English because they can't speak English, their classmates are going to push them out. This is going to make them feel less welcome in the classroom and in turn make them feel as if they're not ready to go above and beyond, be successful outside the classroom, and be able to have a career in the future. The fifth source was The Impact of Alienation and Loss, and it just kind of talks about how we need to bring in backgrounds and bring in their culture to the classroom so they can feel connected like other students do. By doing this, we're creating a classroom environment where everyone is welcome. So moving right along into our challenges, for this part, we see that whenever it wants to load, the challenges are pretty clear. Lack of a support services. Most schools do not support English learners the ways they need to, so schools should be providing English learners teachers with training over strategies and conflict resolution. The second one is emotional and academic overload. If we use the full immersion in English language environments, we overwhelm students. By providing students with support by providing support for staff for immigrant students, requiring training that teaches them the strategies to help these students, we can actually bring them into a classroom in a more natural way and make them feel as if they're more welcome and better off. And finally, transportation. When we have extracurriculars, after-school programs, or support programs before after school, students have a very hard time getting to and from these activities. So transportation is a very big problem because it's hard to find reliable transportation. So what's a great solution for this? Schools should be providing buses or transportation from these after-school programs to help promote these students to attend. For my pictures from my classroom, I pulled 3 pictures of one of my bulletin board, one of my class actually playing a game, and then my classroom setup itself with the flags on the ceiling. So the first one we're going to talk about is the bulletin board. On this bulletin board, you can barely see it, but I'll try to zoom in here. You can see that there are pins in the map from where each of my students was born. So this actually allowed them to show their classmates that they are, all from different places, but they all ended up in the same area. They all ended up at the middle school I teach at. And because of that, they are no different from each other regardless of race, culture, backgrounds. After I originally put this into place, I realized this wasn't enough. I needed to do more, so I actually added a second part to this activity where students write a little bit about their home culture. They make a poster, and I hang it on the billboard next to this so students can kind of get an idea of where students come from and what their lives were like before they came here. The second one was a classroom activity where all students are participating. We have a variety of different cultures in this picture, playing a game where we were talking about the domino theory for communism. By rolling the bowling ball into the bowling pins and them knocking each other over, we were able to say this is exactly what happens with communism. One country falls and the others will follow. This was the domino theory, and this activity just was a way to engage all learners and make them feel as if they're equal. No one was different, everyone got an opportunity, and they all got to perform in front of their classmates in the same ways. And finally, the third thing we're going to look at is my classroom setup. Not only are we looking at the desk setup, but really we're focusing on the flags in the ceiling. Each one of these flags is from a country around the world, and I love to have my students identify which flag is from their home country and find a way to interact with it. Whether that be to have a student draw a picture and hang it on a wall, or draw a picture on a poster and then explain their country's background. Having these different flags on the ceiling helps students realize that they are from different areas, they are from different countries, and there's a lot of different countries around the world. But at the end of the day, the only thing that separates us from each other is the fact that we are behind different drawn borders that mean literally nothing more than a map. So I really like using these as an opportunity to show kids that we really are similar more than we think. So moving on into building a positive classroom environment, the 5 pictures I pulled, the first one was kind of just talking about how we can start building a classroom environment by introducing everybody, by getting to talk to everyone, saying hello, building relationships with the students and with their peers. Moving on, after you've identified which students need additional supports and how they learn best, assigning groups, assigning the best practices for each student, finding their strengths and weaknesses, and building curriculum around that, because that is going to help English learners the most. If you are focused on building relationships, then they are more likely to engage with you. Following the classroom setup, teachers need to go one-on-one, building a relationship with these students to make them feel welcome and safe and secure in the classroom. If they are doing this, these students are going to thrive and push themselves farther than they would if they were able to be ignored or hide in the classroom. By building these relationships, teachers are helping the students feel more welcome and part of the classroom environment. And finally, after you've developed all of these other approaches, this is when you bring it all together. This is when the teacher works with all students together in a group activity, allowing them to see, hey, this is a class. We are all one big class that works together, and no one is different than each other. By doing this, we're building an inclusive environment where every student feels safe and supported, especially English language learners who then feel no different than their classmates. If their classmates want to go to college, they know they can too. If their classmates want to get a high-paying job, they know they can too, because if we set this up correctly, we are establishing that our English learning population is no different than their classmates. So the other thing we want to talk about in this is the fact that we need to involve our community and parents in supporting our English learners. So one of the biggest ways we can do this is providing opportunities to join clubs, especially at my middle school. We have a soccer club that plays on select Fridays during connection classes. But in order for students to participate, they have to have 0 unexcused absences and not be missing work. This enforces that these students are, smart, capable, and gives them, motivation to complete their work at the highest quality, because they know if they do, they can do something they enjoy. Along with the games at school, we have a couple tournaments outside of school hours that allows the local businesses to sponsor and be involved, and for the parents to come out and see their students are engaged with the community, with the school. Make sure parents see their students are no different than anyone else, because they are not. They should be supported the same as every other student. Finally, preparing the concept map we have, the first thing is we need to assess the needs of English learners. Find out where they are, what their language proficiency, their cultural backgrounds, and their educational needs. After we've identified that, we need to figure out how we can help them with language acquisition. We need to train teachers on how to teach English, how to teach reading, writing, things like that. Teach methods that encourage basic communication skills and academic language proficiency. After we've accomplished that, step 3 is developing a culturally responsive teaching strategies, looking at the grade level curriculum and saying, how can I change this instruction to meet the background of my students, to involve the cultural background of my students, to help them engage with the material. After we've done that, step 4 is providing language support programs, offering specific language support opportunities like ESL classes, tutoring, and language immersion pathways. Once we've made these students feel as if they are very welcome in the classroom, a part of our community, we need to provide emotional and social support. Schools need to have trained counselors that support system provided to immigrant students so they can feel welcome, so they can go to people with their struggles. Provide peer-to-peer counseling opportunities, and language learners may face the challenges such as isolation, anxiety, and cultural adjustment. Without the proper support, these students will feel neglected and fall behind their classmates. Step 6 was monitoring progress and changing instructions, using formal and informal activities to gather data, just kind of learning how your students are progressing, seeing how they're doing, and making sure they're feeling supported at every step of the way. After that, like we said, incorporate families and communities, find ways to bring parents and communities in. Make sure everyone feels supported so the kids are not just supported at school. These messages that they can be successful and they can do whatever they want with their lives needs to be said to them more than just at school. Their parents need to believe it too. By supporting and bringing their parents into this, we are doing exactly that. Then we need to prepare English learners for post-graduation, provide career and college readiness programs, include resume building workshops, internships, and higher education programs. And finally, we need to bridge the gap in the college career readiness. Determine what gaps in knowledge, skills, and resources that may prevent English learners from accessing higher education or stable careers. Then develop programs that help skills such as technology, typing class, and email etiquette to help these students be prepared for life after graduation. And finally, after these students graduate, you need to track how they do. Track the long-term success of English language learners in higher education and their careers so we can use this data to change the ways that we support the students in the future. By constantly evolving and changing our approaches, we are building a system that is evolving and helping each generation of learners more than the last. So throughout this study, I looked at a variety of sources and looked into how I can support my students more, how I can build a better environment. And what I learned was you need to include them in the classroom in every way possible. You need to make them feel as if they are another student, a normal, everyday English-speaking student that would thrive in an average classroom, because they are. At the end of the day, they are no different than their classmates. Once they learn English, they have the same skills they need to be successful. Throughout this project, I found that schools really do fail to, help students be successful in college, in life after graduation. So, no, the public school system does not prepare English learners for life after graduation. However, we can change that very quickly and easily by implementing a couple different things. One, in the classroom, we can use class-wide team building games, student engagement-based activities, group work with assigned partners, and learning style-based seating charts in order to support these students to make them feel as if they are no different than their classmates. And for school initiatives, they need to implement new programs that support speaking and reading skills that these students are lacking, such as peer tutoring opportunities, career pathways, secondary education opportunities, behavioral incentive programs, attendance incentives programs, and community engagements events. By doing this, the programs should encourage and support the diverse cultural backgrounds of ESOL students by connecting the content to the student interests. If we do this, we are creating a school system that is going to help our students be the best versions of themselves. As you can see, I used a variety of different sources that used a bunch of different approaches to support my findings, and what I found was really that it's a very easy fix. We just need to focus on where we are looking to implement changes, because those changes can be very difficult. But if we do it correctly, these students will feel supported and capable of achieving whatever goal they set their mind to. And that is what is most important for preparing English learners for success after graduation. Well, that is my live binder. I appreciate you guys watching, and I look forward to hearing any feedback you guys have. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Okay, how do I stop it?